Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive into some really fascinating material. And today, we are tackling a classic, the Master Key System
Right.
by Charles F. Haanel. Now,
This is a big one.
it is a big one, and it's been hugely influential for like over a century now.
Sure.
So for those who maybe haven't had a chance to crack it open yet, give us the quick elevator pitch. What's at the heart of this book?
So at the heart of this book is the idea that we are way more powerful than we think we are,
Well,
and that our thoughts have creative power to shape our reality.
oh, okay. Even we hear that a lot, right? Like
Yeah.
your thoughts create your reality. But
Yeah.
how does he actually back that up? Because like that's a bold claim.
Well, he gets very technical, actually. Okay. In a way that I think is both really interesting and also maybe for some people a little dense.
Right.
Like he really goes into the weeds of like the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind, and he talks about how the subconscious mind, which is, something like 90% of our mental power, it's like this vast reservoir
Yeah.
that most of us are not really tapping into.
Right. Like a hidden supercomputer we've got.
Exactly.
But we're only using like 10% of its processing power.
Exactly, yeah.
So how do we tap into it then?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting because he actually gives very clear tools.
Okay.
He provides exercises, things like concentration exercises, where you're literally training your mind like a muscle to focus.
So it's not just like wishing for stuff. It's like really like actively
It's
shaping.
about cultivating your attention and your focus. Yes.
Thoughts. Okay.
And then also, he talks about visualization,
Yeah.
creating these really vivid mental pictures of what you want to attract into your life, almost like planting seeds, in the fertile ground of your subconscious.
Oh, okay. So this is like I'm getting like law of attraction vibes, right?
That's law of attraction is definitely woven throughout this. But he takes it a step further, I think, in some ways, and talks about it through the lens of what he calls polarity.
Polarity. Okay, what's polarity?
Okay, so imagine like a magnet, right? It's got a positive pole, it's got a negative pole, and that polarity creates the magnetic field.
Right.
So Hanel's saying our minds are kind of similar
Okay.
in that our thoughts, when they're focused, create a kind of mental polarity.
Yeah.
And that this polarity connects us to a larger force, a universal force, which he calls the universal mind.
Okay. So it's not just like positive thinking, it's like aligning our energy with something, with a larger force.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like a universal intelligence or consciousness.
Okay.
And that, through that alignment, that's how we start to manifest the things that we want.
Okay. I'm getting it. So it's like we're almost like plugging into a power source, and then we're able to like manifest things. But that also seems like
Yeah, well, and he actually talks about the responsibility that comes with that.
Well, yeah, because if you've got that much power, you got
Right.
to be careful with it.
Yes, and he emphasizes that. True fulfillment, it doesn't come from chasing material wealth or just like superficial success.
Right. So what does he say brings that fulfillment then?
He says it's about aligning our actions with a sense of purpose.
Okay.
Living in accordance with what he calls well-doing.
Well-doing. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so it's not just about like getting what we want, it's about contributing to something larger than ourselves.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like he's really big on this idea of like there being like more to life than just, our own individual desires.
Absolutely, yeah. And he also talks about this idea of continuous growth, constantly evolving, kind of like shedding old beliefs that no longer serve us.
Wait, tell me more about the shedding thing, because that's kind of intriguing.
So he uses this like vivid analogy of a plant shedding its old leaves to make way for new growth. And he's basically saying that we need to do the same thing with our beliefs and our habits, that we have to be willing to let go of things that are no longer serving us in order to create space for, positive change.
So it's like we're making room for new possibilities by like clearing out the old stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he actually gives very specific tools and techniques to help us do that.
Okay.
One of the things that he emphasizes is understanding how our thoughts and our beliefs and even our biology are all interconnected.
Okay. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty here. How does
Right.
biology play into this?
Well, he was way ahead of his time
Okay.
in recognizing the mind-body connection. And he talks about the cerebrospinal and sympathetic nervous systems and how they play a role in manifesting our thoughts into reality.
Okay. I'll be honest, I'm not super familiar with those systems. Could you give us a quick rundown on?
Sure, yeah. So basically, think of the cerebrospinal system as the communication highway for your conscious mind. It's the part of you that's making decisions and analyzing information.
Yeah.
And then the sympathetic nervous system, this is more about automatic responses, like your fight or flight response.
Right, okay.
And Haanel suggested that.
Yeah.
Aligning our conscious intention, so what we're focusing on, what we're visualizing with both of those systems is key to actually bringing our desires into being.
So it's not enough to just think it. We have to kind of embody it almost.
Yeah, exactly. Our whole
being has to be.
Yes, our whole being needs to be on board with the vision.
Okay. I mean, because I guess if your subconscious is fighting against your conscious goals, that's going to be an uphill battle, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and that's where his practical exercises come in. Is he's giving us a roadmap for how to align all of those things so that we can create what we want.
Okay. This is already making me rethink how I approach personal growth, because it's not just about setting goals. It's understanding the mechanics of my own mind in a way, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And a little daunting.
Right. Yeah. A little bit. Yeah, but mostly cool, I think.
Yeah, mostly cool.
Yeah.
This is fascinating stuff. But I have to admit, there are times when I'm trying to, visualize or focus my thoughts, and it still feels like my mind's like a runaway train,
Oh, right.
It's hard to wrangle those thoughts sometimes.
Oh, for sure. Does Hall address that at all?
Yeah, actually he does. He talks about how even great thinkers can get stuck in those kind of negative thought patterns.
Yeah.
And he compares it to a gardener who's constantly having to pull weeds.
Okay, that's a relatable analogy.
Yeah.
So how do we get better at mental gardening then?
Well, he really emphasizes the importance of consistent practice. It's we need to train our minds the way an athlete trains their body.
Okay. Yeah.
It's about building mental discipline.
Okay, so it's not just a one-time thing. It's we're trying to create new habits of thought.
Exactly, new habits of thought.
Okay.
Yeah, and any habit, it takes time, it takes effort.
Yeah.
But he does give us specific techniques to help us along the way.
One of the things that he's a big proponent of is the power of affirmations.
Okay. Affirmations, just saying positive things to yourself.
Yeah. Repeating positive statements, but he doesn't see it as just empty words. He's saying when we repeat these affirmations with focused attention, we're actually impressing these ideas on our subconscious mind.
So we're getting our conscious and our subconscious kind of on the same page, on the same goal.
Yes, exactly. Aligning those two.
Okay.
And that's where the magic happens.
Okay. I mean, because to be honest, I've tried affirmations before, and I'm always a little I don't know about this. My inner skeptic kind of takes over.
Right.
Is that normal?
Totally normal. He actually says, doubt, skepticism, these are all part of the process.
Yeah.
And he actually encourages us to approach it with a sense of experimentation,
Okay.
like a scientist testing a hypothesis.
So be open to it, but don't be surprised if it doesn't work overnight.
Yeah, it's about being patient with ourselves and trusting the process.
Okay.
And the thing about Haanel that I think is so compelling is that he wasn't just theorizing about this stuff. He actually developed this system through years of personal experience and observation.
So he was walking the walk.
Yes, he was walking the walk.
Not just talking the talk.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, that's good to know, because that does make a difference. So as we're getting ready to kind of wrap up this deep dive, what would you say are some of the big takeaways that our listeners can kind of start applying in their own lives?
I think the biggest one is just this empowering realization that we're not just products of our circumstances.
Okay.
Like, we have the power to shape our reality through our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions.
We're not just along for the ride.
We're not just along for the ride. We are the ones.
We're in the driver's seat.
We're holding the steering wheel.
Yeah. Okay, I like that.
Yeah. And while Haanel gives us the map and the tools,
Yeah.
it's up to each of us to actually take the wheel and steer ourselves
Yeah.
in the direction of our dreams.
It's about taking ownership.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And remembering, it's a journey, not a destination.
Oh.
Like, there's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be moments of doubt, times when we fall back into old patterns.
So it's not about being perfect, it's about like progress. Great.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly. And the more we practice these principles, the more natural they become.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Yeah.
learning a new language
Yeah.
or a musical instrument. It takes
Yeah.
time. It takes dedication.
Yeah.
But the rewards are definitely worth the effort.
Okay. Okay, that's good. That's good. It's like we're upgrading our like
Uh.
mental operating system or something.
Yeah.
We're learning to like
Use the whole thing.
we're becoming conscious
Yeah.
creators of our experience.
Yes. Okay, that's good. And speaking of becoming conscious creators, you know, one thing that I always found really interesting that Haanel talks about is how
Even like really, great thinkers, they can still get stuck in like negativity, right?
Right.
So if our thoughts are so powerful, then why does it often feel harder
yeah,
to think positively? What do you think?
that is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, why are we so like almost wired to focus on the negative sometimes?
That's true. It's like we've got this negativity bias, I think.
We do. And
Yeah.
you know, there are probably evolutionary reasons for that, right?
Yeah.
Like, back in the day,
Yeah.
you were focused on potential threats.
Yeah,
You're more likely to survive.
right.
But now,
Right.
you know, those same mechanisms that helped us survive
Right.
can really hold us back from
Okay.
reaching our full potential.
So how do we break free from that old wiring then?
Well, I think Haanel would say one of the keys is just awareness.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
by simply observing our thoughts without judgment, we can start to identify those patterns
Okay.
and then make a different choice.
So it's like we're hitting the pause button on autopilot
Yes.
and actually like making a conscious decision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where all those tools that we've been talking about,
Right.
you know, the affirmations, the visualization, the concentration exercises, they come in because they help us to like reprogram our minds for positivity and abundance.
Okay, so it's not about like suppressing those negative thoughts. It's more about like
Oh.
choosing a more like
Yes.
empowering perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And remembering that we are not our thoughts,
Right.
right? We are the observer.
Okay.
You have our thoughts.
Yeah.
And from that place of observation, then we have the power to choose.
Okay. Okay, I like that. I like that. This has been a really eye-opening deep dive.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Before we wrap things up here, is there anything else that you would want our listeners to kind of keep in mind as they're like exploring this work for themselves?
You know, I would just say approach it with a sense of curiosity
Okay.
and playfulness.
Okay.
You know, experiment with the techniques, see what resonates for you, and don't be afraid to adapt them to fit your own life.
So make it your own.
Yes, exactly. Make it your own.
Okay, that's great. That's great advice. Well, that brings us to the end of another deep dive.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on
Oh, my pleasure as always.
and sharing all of these really, really insightful takeaways from the Master Key system.
Yeah.
And for our listeners, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time